What if you could help others to find the power to heal themselves, physically, emotionally, and spiritually?
When I started teaching my classes, it was in 2002, and I was just doing past life regressions and contacting the subconscious part. But then as the time went on and we found how powerful this was and what we could do with it, a lot of the students began saying, you know, advanced past life regression doesn't really tell what it's all about. This is so much more than that. We think you should change the name. So it was a few years ago, we decided to change the name to Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique.
Help other people to speak to their higher selves. You can. Dolores Cannon has taught thousands of people from across the world how to use QHHT. Now you can learn her method by going directly to themoreshow.com/QHHT. And don't forget to mention the discount coupon More Talks. Cherry, just thank you so much for joining us today.
Well, thank you.
Now, Cherry, just for the audience, just to begin with, just very quickly, just give us a bit of background on yourself, what you do, and just where you are in life as well.
Yes. Well, for 24 years, the past 24 years, I've been providing psychic guidance, psychic readings to thousands of people. I started out doing numerology. Someone did a reading on me and I freaked out. I just said, like, what the heck is that? And that started something I never started out in life to be a psychic. It's not something I grew up hearing that word. I know I had some weird kind of, I knew about 12 years old that I had some sort of ability, but I wouldn't tell anyone. I remember going up the stairwell in my middle school saying, I know things. And I decided, you know what? I'm not going to tell anybody. And so when this lady did a numerology reading on me in New York, when I moved to New York City, I was, so amazed, so freaked out. I went to all the occult bookstores and I basically got a degree in numerology. I studied it for years, and for 6 years, 6 years straight, everyone I met, I had to do their chart. I had to do a reading on them. And so I did it for free. I never charged. And then one day, about 6 years later, everyone was telling me how amazing it was, how amazing the readings were. I decided, okay, this could be my career. This could, because I'm so passionate about it. I would stay up late at night, studying numerology. Just couldn't get enough of it. I really truly loved it. Even to this day, it's something I'm always calculating in my mind. And so that's how things got started. And then I bought a deck of tarot cards, and I studied tarot cards for a while. And one day that also clicked. It's funny how spirit connects to you, especially if you have no idea, about it. No one's ever explained it. My entire journey has been self-taught. That's who I am. I'm a self-taught individual. And so I went from learning numerology to tarot to connecting to spirit and realizing when I was hearing something that wasn't directly my thoughts and realizing how this works for me because it works differently for everyone. And so and then I went from there. And then a few years later after that, I started doing it professionally. I started charging and started, counseling people with my numerology, and I got so much great feedback that also feeds me and makes me feel like, what I'm doing is valuable, what I'm doing has purpose, this is my purpose, I'm okay. So that's just a little bit about, how everything began, and I'm really in my place. I know that this is where I belong, and numerology is amazing. I mean, it can tell you so many details and some of the tables that I've used and learned are so detailed and complex that I don't use them every day in my everyday calculations. But I'm telling you, this stuff can go deep, very, very, very deep. And whenever I meet someone, I have to do their numbers. I just have to.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, your background as well, you as a paralegal, that was your sort of beginning career.
Yeah.
And it was around at the latter part of your paralegal career that you started getting into the numerology side as well. Were you glad to sort of leave
Professionally. Before
professionally?
that, I
Yes,
had
that's
been
right.
doing it for years. Yeah, before that, yeah, I had been doing it all along. It seems like I've been doing it my whole life, actually, because it was very early on that that lady did a numerology reading on me, and that's when I decided that I've got to know what this is.
Well, I find it interesting that you were doing, you had the paralegal career as well, because that was important to you at one time, wasn't it? That was another
Well,
another way for you to help people, wasn't it?
working for attorneys can be challenging. And it wasn't really that I felt like I was in my place. No, I always felt like the opposite, that, I'm not um, where I belong, because all along while I was a legal secretary, I was doing numerology all along. But I couldn't leave my job because I wasn't making money doing my yeah. So I quit. I finally was able to quit because what happened was a site contacted me and asked me would I work on their site. And, it was kind of just this luck, this kind of like stroke of luck, that it seemed ironic, even though I was telling my son, mommy's going to be working from home. I'm going to be taking you to school and all that stuff. I didn't really know how, but I had that vision. I had a vision. And I just like, it was like, I didn't wake up. My body woke me up. My body was working. Everything was operating on its own. It's like it was taking me to my destiny, right? And so I quit. And what I was making from my work in my readings, my psychic readings as well, I started mainly as a psychic reading because I wasn't sure how interested people were in numerology. But once my income leveled off and I could let go the legal field, then I took off and I never looked back. And that was 24 years ago. 20, yeah, right. Yeah. It was the year of 9/11, 2001. I remember that year. I left on Valentine's Day, 2001 in February. And then that year that we had 9/11.
So we've got the tarot side here as well, which is the psychic side. Yeah.
Right,
Um,
right.
do you think there's any connection with the psychic side and the numerology
Oh,
side in a sense? Do
I
you
know
think?
what I was thinking. I know what I was thinking. See, when I started, after I had advanced quite a bit of ways in my numerology, all of a sudden I realized that I was hearing something too. It wasn't just calculations and meanings and definitions, right? I started hearing things and I just knew things. And I know that for me, yes, it is connected for me. But I can imagine that someone who's just starting out doing numerology, they're not going to immediately have that connection, or maybe they started the other way. They started out understanding their psychic ability and then got into numerology. But everything was a progression, and little surprises and unsubtle understandings until I realized what I was. Let me tell you, I resisted. I didn't even believe it myself. I didn't set out to do this at all. It grasped me. And I remember when I was young, still at home, and I was so interested in the mysterious. And one day I saw one of these talk shows about Edgar Cayce, and that's really what got me going. And I went out and bought everything on Edgar Cayce. And so that wasn't numerology then, that wasn't psychic or anything. I just found out, about how his abilities and what he was able to do. That just completely fascinated me. And so that's, pretty much, yeah. So there's a connection there. There is a nexus between my numerology and how I've practiced it, and how it segued into becoming a psychic advisor. It's all about, for me, hearing that information. As we were discussing not too long ago, I actually can hear things, hear words, hear, and in just a, like, it could be just a second, and you can understand this whole concept in just like 1 second.
Yeah, because when we spoke as well, you felt that sometimes that you felt that things were channeled to you as well. Very like it was lightly there. It is there, but it's not something that
Yeah.
you've specialized in. But you still feel that.
Oh, I
Yeah,
do that all the time, but it's spontaneous. I'm not even paying attention. I could be sitting in a cab or something, and all of a sudden I hear some very, like, almost complex information, and then I'll have this understanding. I feel like I'm just like somebody that's just sitting there, always receiving information, like from some sort of data bank. And, it's very, very passive on my part. In other words, I'm not seeking it most of the time, but yet I'm downloading it. And sometimes I don't need it, whatever it is at that moment, but perhaps it'll be useful at a future point. But I do feel like it's like accessing the Akashic records. There's a database of knowledge where all knowledge exists. And I do feel like I'm privy to some of that. I would never be able to explain to you, how the Akashic records work, but I do understand what they are.
that is incredible. That is interesting. Yeah, because there was an Edgar Casey Center in New York at one
Virginia.
time. I don't know if it's
Oh,
still there.
it's in
Obviously,
Virginia. It's in
yes,
Virginia.
it's in Virginia Beach, but they did have a get together place, or there was something in New York.
Oh, really?
Yeah, there was. Yeah, this was maybe before the pandemic, whether it's still there or not. But yes, Virginia Beach. Have you been to the Virginia Beach ARE?
No, no, I haven't been.
Okay.
I used to frequent Virginia Beach, but I'd never gone to the Edgar Cayce
Isn't it a
Center.
beautiful place, Virginia Beach? I did.
Absolutely,
Yeah. The
absolutely.
the weird the weirdest feeling there is when I went there, I felt like I just got home. Do you know that?
Really
Yeah,
interesting.
that was so weird. I was like, oh my God, I've been here before, and I just but never really. It was never enough to sort of draw me back there. But
It's more like deja vu.
definitely,
Hmm. Hmm.
definitely, which was really really weird. But yes, a lot of people get drawn to the Casey Center, and at the Casey Center, you've got all the readings that Casey did back in the day. It's amazing. It's
It's
incredible.
amazing. That is just really, and it really, it caused his early death because people were, just utilizing him. They overutilized him, and it took a physical toll on his body.
Well, I think the voice told him to, cut the smoking down, to cut the client list down, to cut it all back. But
Exactly.
he didn't listen,
But
and I think from when you read in between the lines, he just really wanted to help people as well.
he really did.
He
He
did.
really did, at his own expense. At his own expense. Hmm.
So that's interesting. So you've got that side as well. So
Hmm.
with an example reading, then when you're giving someone a session, and just remind us of your website as well, Sherry.
Oh, yes, cherrysage.com. Cherry like the fruit, sage like the herb.com. Psychic readings, and been there since 1999. Can you
That's
believe it?
incredible. No, I can't. That's so cool. That is really cool.
24 years. I
Yeah,
keep
yeah.
saying that. It's just incredible to me. 24
And
years.
of course, you've seen a lot of clients on that in that time as well. So just as an example session for people, so people coming to you for a reading, they can come to you for most things, well, anything really. But
Mhm.
as an example, how would the reading sort of work in a sense?
Oh, okay. So when they come to me, usually, it's about love. People are interested in their love life and their relationships. It can even be with your boss or your career. Because I, especially tying in numerology with the psychic readings, you can really get very specific with people, very, very specific about why they're there, and some people don't even know why they're here. And but they call me with specific questions, and I'm mostly someone who really, I'm so detailed in terms of how I taught myself, because I told you I'm self-taught, and I need to know what they need to know. And that's where we start from. And a lot of things come up, even things of a psychological nature. And I did my astrology chart, and it said that I was a natural born psychologist. And so I use my natural understanding of human behavior it all just, like I said, I just downloaded and I give them what they need to know. And, some things people ask that you just can't answer. And some people have the wrong idea about psychics and what they are capable of answering. But you're not supposed to know everything. You got to figure out stuff. You have lessons to learn. If you could bypass your lessons by a psychic telling you, secrets that, where you wouldn't have to learn your lessons, then there would be no purpose for being here, because, the pain is all a part of the plan.
Right. Okay. So with numerology, then, what can we uncover, do you think?
Oh my God. First of all, your reason for being here, your destiny, that's your life path. And it tells you, I often get a lot of past life information, what their past life was like, because based on what I see in their chart, you can see what's missing too, or you can see excesses, or just the opposite, omissions, where, they are overbalanced or underbalanced, their energy. And you can tell them what their strengths are and their weaknesses, their flaws. You can tell them their struggles and where they're at any specific point in time, because the forecasting table can go from birth till 200 years old. So, and it's based on your name and your date of birth. And it has to be the birth name. It can't be, a new name or an adopted name, unless you were adopted at birth. And those letters in your name are very, very significant. They're your gifts. So when you're missing letters, that means those are karmic lessons. And then there's certain numbers. These, could be the scary ones, that are your karmic debts. And those represent some of the most significant struggles that you'll have. And some go from mild to severe in terms of their struggles, based on their karmic debts. And all of that is revealed in their chart.
God, it makes me want to have a read and write.
Good,
yeah.
good.
No,
no question. I'll be reading you, Kevin.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, no, there's something with the numerology. I've always found that to be the case. But with numerology, is there a connection with astrology then as well?
Well, not directly. They're more like sister type, practices, but they're not. But yes, more so, I feel numerology has more so to do with tarot than astrology, because, astrology is based on the planets and those alignments of the planets and the stars and all that stuff. Whereas, basically the letters in your name are the stars, and they do the transiting. And but the tarot cards, like, there's one, there's the major arcana and the minor arcana. And so there's a correspondence between, and with the meanings as well, with the significance of, like, say, the one is the magician. Now, the magician in the tarot deck, that could be someone's ego, it could be manipulation, it can be, aggressiveness, assertiveness, or even, there's always, resides on a continuum. So when we're seeking the center, we're seeking zero. So your energy can go this way or it can go this way, but we need to be in the middle somewhere. So yeah.
Okay, thank you for that. And then when we've got numerology, when it comes to compatibility with our partners, then do you see that, or do you wish that sometimes clients would come to you before they say, I'm going to marry him or her, right? And then
you don't know how many times I've said that.
Right, I thought so, yeah. And, when you look at the compatibility, actually there is an incompatibility, but does that mean it's destined not to work? Or actually that incompatibility is actually, if you look deeper, is actually saying that the karmic lessons that you've got to learn as well.
Right, exactly. That's where you're going. Right. So it's like there's no mistake. There's nothing wrong with incompatibility, because there's some reason why that friction exists. And so it could be just, a constant trying to, to reconcile those differences. And that's the lesson. And after that lesson is learned, maybe you move on. But yes, I can absolutely see parallels in numerology in relationships, and I do it all the time. I've done it thousands of times. In terms of looking at people, sometimes I see absolute discord, and but people and their soul and their desires, that's what compels them to do anything. And despite anything I might say, people are going to do what they want to do anyway. I've learned that people have to learn the hard way. So, but no, but they're so excited and they get so much clarity. And I can't tell you how many times I've heard people say that, I always was thinking that. I was always thinking that. And when numerology reveals what they were thinking, it has a profound effect on them. A profound effect on them.
That's incredible. And I mean, where does this come from? Do you know what I mean? That the numbers can have so much meaning in it, and it's so bloody accurate as well. On top of that, you've got your psychic side as well, of course.
Right. But, I think that just explains that, our origins are not of this place where we are right now. Our origins are of a higher nature, and there's a higher intelligence that hovers over us, kind of theoretically, that not controls us, but kind of manipulates us in a way. But it's based on what your output is. You're kind of being tested in each lifetime. You have to grow, and and it makes just like Edgar Casey. That's where it all started for me, reincarnation, because I was walking around as a 10-year-old wondering, why am I here? Why am I here? I didn't understand why. I said, especially when I found out about death, I was like, well, why am I here? Just to die? And then reincarnation explained it all. The fact that you come back and you live again, because you cannot learn all of life's lessons and go through all of every human experience in one lifetime. It's just not possible. And so once I got that understanding of reincarnation, I was able to have more comfort in my life and live my life more with purpose, because even as a 10-year-old and a 12-year-old, because I just could not believe, I just wasn't going to buy that I'm just here and I'm just going to die. And that's it. I just couldn't buy it. And I don't know how anyone can't believe in reincarnation, and some people don't. And, you don't have to for you to be affected by it. But yeah, some people are not at a certain stage where their mind is ready and open to believe their origins.
Well, that's interesting you saying that, because let's just look at your span of your career, which seems long, but actually in the blip of an eye, isn't it really? Do you know what I mean?
Exactly.
But just going back to the, late 1990, early 2000s, 2001, when you started really making this more full-time, 2002, have you seen a shift in people's perception of what, of spirituality, of the subjects that you're doing, that there's more men, more people, in general are open to these subjects?
Oh, yeah. Oh, definitely. People are now, you see it on television. People are so fascinated, but, more so in the paranormal area, which, I'm not really involved in the paranormal. I've had some experiences. So I know that, there are other entities that are existing, like, dimensionally, right next door. But, yeah.
Yeah. So you've seen that shift, and mind you, you've also seen the shift of mankind in a sense, haven't you? I mean, as a general, race, things are different right now, aren't they? And we are in uncertain times.
Yeah, I think we're in a decline, humanity wise. Man is very imperfect to begin with, but it's really it's very tenuous how he can go up. It's harder to go up than it is to go down. And with certain influences, certain negative and fearful influences that are in the world today, I feel a slippage. I feel like human beings are really in a decline, and it's just like it's a pylon. It's just the more. I mean, there are definitely souls that are elevated like myself, and those are the people that I want to align myself with. But it scares me. I have to say it does scare me, and it makes me feel like I'm here for a purpose, but after I've served that purpose, I don't want to come back to this level. I know that. This is a very hard, scary. This level is it can be very, very scary.
It can be, absolutely. And, I agree with everything you're saying there. I really do. It's
Mhm.
so true what you're saying there. And I mean, you see it, you know what I mean? And most people with the gifts that you've got, they see it as well. This is
Mhm.
different. I mean, people are feeling it though, aren't they? And I think it just feels the same, does it? It's just, we're on a different course right now. Whatever we've got to go through, we've got to go through, it feels like.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So do you think when you look at people's numbers, there's karmic influence on, the bigger picture around people as well that's going on? Do you think do the numbers show a karmic influence? I guess that's what I'm saying. That's sometimes out of our
Absolutely.
control.
Well, that's what I actually look for when I'm reading someone. I want to see what the karmic influences are, because that's very, very deep, and it's very significant in terms of coloring the person's personality and their life experience. So if they have bad karma, and I hate to say bad karma, but that's what it is, then they have to there when I see it in the numerology, it means that they're in a reaping incarnation. That means this life they're being corrected. And um, and there's a difference though between a karmic debt and these karmic influences and a karmic lesson. A karmic lesson just means you haven't had any experience with certain number energies, like say you were born with no threes or no fours, so you don't have any experience with that. So you know your chart can compensate for that by having one of your cores equal that number, and therefore it's an easy lesson. But if you don't have any compensating energy, then it could be a harder lesson. So there's so much to look at when you're looking at someone's chart, and so much to understand, and it's nuanced. It's nuanced. So that makes the difference between a good, excellent numerologist and one who's might be just learning and just starting out. Those nuances are extremely important, because that it whenever I'm doing a reading, I'm looking for the key, and the karmic influences is the most important key.
That is interesting. So is there any sort of like hidden numbers that come up sometimes?
Hidden influences, yes,
Right.
they're called hidden influences. Like there's hidden karma, hidden karmic debts, and you find them in you know when you're doing your calculations, you use like your first, your middle, and your last name. And if you find a number and then you add them together, then the values you get from the first plus the value you get from the second name and the value you get from the third and sometimes fourth names. And so that would be considered a sub element. And there is where you find hidden numbers and hidden influences, hidden karmic influences. And then you go, aha, there's something there. And it's usually within the subconscious or the secret self. And that's where you can find psychological components that are influencing the person's behavior. And understanding those is what can make a person grow. And I love numerology, because I've had some people tell me that, God, this is better than my therapist, because it's such a deep understanding of yourself that you would never get a picture or a snapshot of. And I coined the phrase your soul's map, um, which is what numerology is. It just really maps your soul. It maps everything. It's right there, who you were, who you are now, and where you're going. And I even get a glimpse of, who they're going to be and what life path they're going to have in their next life.
Whoa,
Yeah.
that's pretty deep.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's incredible. But what about then when it comes to wellness? What about that someone that's in a stage of their life, going through what maybe karmically what they need to go through, right? And which is not always the nicest, but can you foresee that? And is that in the
You
numbers?
you you can see, yes, you can see things like for instance, when I did my own chart early on, when I was studying that first 6 years when I was studying before I went professional, I looked at my own chart and I said, oh, I'm going to have a baby that year. And I was right. I mean, I had forgotten about it, but when I checked back and I went, oh my God, that's when I saw I was going to have a baby. So you can see like important life events that can occur. But everything in numerology is potential because, we all have free will, and how you use your energy is extremely important and very specific to how you live your life, how you end up living your life. And if you don't like your life and all these bad things are happening, you can change that. But it comes with awareness, a lot of awareness, and your willingness to see, where you're avoiding your path, you're avoiding your destiny. And a karma of avoidance, which is the number 16, by the way, is very prevalent in this world. Very, very prevalent. Some people have it 116 in the chart. That's, a serious, is serious, like something you've got to really focus on and understand. But to have 216s or 316s, that's like almost deadly. You have to really, really, really give up your selfishness and your resistance to a higher power. You're going to be forced to do that. And if you do not do it, your circumstances will cause things to happen that will force you to be inwardly focused.
Okay. It's so interesting. I find this so interesting. So, is there, do you think, or there probably is, hidden numbers for things that you should be doing in your life? Maybe that's what I'm trying to say. If we're
So,
off course.
well, the hidden numbers are really something the person isn't consciously thinking. Hidden numbers are more in the subconscious, and they're not when they're maybe in a very kind of like alpha state, like when you're kind of daydreaming or drifting off while you're watching TV and you're dipping off and you go into this like little alpha state. Um, that's when you can access, or when you would access some of your hidden energy. But most people, the reason why it's hidden, because most people's conscious mind is not ready to deal with it,
So,
to deal with that energy.
yeah, absolutely.
It's hidden for a reason.
Absolutely. So, going back to the basics here, then. Well, July's my birthday, and a few of my friends as well. But your birthday really, it really has a massive influence on the path of your life. Then, doesn't it? In a sense, do you think the soul incarnates knowingly at the time it's supposed to? That's going to be the most powerful for some of the lessons that it wants to learn in this lifetime or experience.
Absolutely. We all write our little contract before we come in. We choose our parents. We choose our name. We tell our parents our name because our name is very, very important. It's like a code. That's what I'm doing, is decoding the name. So before you come in, you have to assess your previous lives, and you have to compensate. So each life is a compensation, but it's also an evolvement, an upward ascending evolvement. And so that's really basic to admittance onto this physical plane. Is that you have to assess where you are. And some souls are still hiding and still running, and it's just like it'll catch up to you eventually if you want to get to the highest levels. But you usually have to get to like midway before you realize and become aware that there are higher levels that you want to ascend to. But the humans that are down here, and you got to help them come up here. We're all helpers here. That's what I am. I'm in a helping profession to help people's awareness, to understand what their purpose is here and what they've been given. The numerology tells you the cards you've been dealt in this life, and you created it. You were the boss. So and I always tell my clients, well, this is what you gave yourself. This is what you came down to do. So don't be mad. Don't be mad.
That's a great way of looking at it, Cherry. That is a great way of looking at it. I knew when I spoke to you off air just a few days ago, I came across you because of a promotion that I was doing, and I was like, when I spoke to you just off air, I was like, damn, you really know your stuff, and you've really got a gift right in this, most definitely. If you look at your numerology, this is what you're supposed to be doing, right?
I'm an 11. That's right. I'm an 11 life path, and that's the sage. That's how I came up with my name, Cherry Sage. Cherry being my last name, and Sage being the path. I'm a 3811, and that's the seer, the psychic seer. That's my number 11. And because it's my life path, because you can have an 11 in all different kinds of places and it means all different kinds of things. But that's my main core number, 11.
Very cool, very cool. So, lucky numbers for people then. Can people have lucky numbers in their numerology chart?
I suppose so. I haven't subscribed so much to that because I haven't seen much evidence of lucky numbers, but I do have like a fun little thing that I do that I can calculate what your lucky numbers are. And most of the time, you already know what they are because you see them all the time, and you go, "I always see that number." I remember one guy kept telling me when I told him I was a numerologist. He goes, "I keep seeing the number 1111. It's like, it's a nightmare for me. And my birthday is coming up. I think it was in the year 2011." And he was freaking out because it was 2011, but he doesn't understand. 2011 is actually the number 4. It's not 11 because you add up all the numbers in the year, the 2, the 0 plus the 1 and the 1. And what I came up with was that he kept seeing this and he was terrified something terrible was going to happen to him. I said, "It's not that. It's just that you made a deal and you're not fulfilling it. And this is flashing, these 1111s keep flashing before you because it's a message from your higher self that to refocus why you came here, because he got off path and he got distracted and he wasn't living the evolve, because, we make deals. We make deals. Even on the spiritual plane, we make deals. And then we come down and we fulfill the contract. And sometimes people get down here and they don't want to do it. And some people don't want to ascend. Some people want to keep coming back and keep coming back and keep coming back. And then they rack up more karmic debt. And then they have to correct that because they become addicted to the physical plane. They don't want to leave the physical plane because that's what's after this. Once we've fulfilled all the human experiences and paid all our debts, that's it. We're gone. We're up there. We're up there with the aliens. which I don't believe there are aliens. I believe we're the aliens that, they've been here forever. The aliens aren't, I don't believe they're from other planets or solar systems. I believe they're right from Earth. Every being, every entity is right here and in other dimensions. And they've been looking after the place for a while. Humans are here so that they can work out their imperfections, and we're just, borrowing the planet. We're not the owners. The owners are well more advanced than we are.
That's an interesting take on it, and I always mention this, but I remember reading some of the Seth books, and they did talk about it being interdimensional, most definitely. But Seth wasn't the only person or energy that could understand this. But most people, even in the UFO circles nowadays, believe it's some sort of other. It's like going through a portal. Do you know what I mean? It's ununderstandable what it may be, but it's not what we think it is. That's what I'm trying to say.
If you watch this series that's on called Skinwalker Ranch, I forget the whole title of it, but that really explains a lot. I mean, they are studying on a scientific level, and they do realize that portals exist, and that there are places where it's a lot more intense and Skinwalker Ranch is just one of them. They're all over the world, but and you don't get in, even on the science. Even if you're an astrophysicist, you don't get in, even with your scientific knowledge, because their knowledge is way beyond ours, way beyond ours. We are just in kindergarten. Human beings are in kindergarten. This level that we're on right now, it's just the beginning, except there are certain souls that come down to help. They're helpers to try to help people come along and not be afraid to evolve and to ascend.
Absolutely, I agree with you there as well. Now, numerology readings, we mentioned a lot about love readings, relationships in a sense. But obviously this can be used for business as well. I'm sure you've got business clients.
Absolutely, totally, absolutely. I talk to people from all walks of life. I even have an astrophysicist client from Harvard, and my son's a Harvard grad, And I am just so I pat myself on the back because I can give advice to an astrophysicist because their mind is more evolved. It's science and is way more aligned with what I'm doing than than the ordinary kind of a life path. But scientists are really they're more able to pierce that secret layer there that we cannot see and we cannot understand unless you're really trying. Like me, I'm always trying. I want to see.
Well, absolutely. And when we spoke last as well, I talked about my idea for a news show that I'm going to be doing not too long. And the idea that, numerology can be used on world events as well. I'm sure you've done and practiced numerology on some world events. Like if you look at the numerology of, 9/11 or any big events, right?
Yes,
It all kind of, it's there, isn't it? There's something there about that date and time.
that's right. Those numbers definitely give you some idea or a clue as to why things are happening. It's a little less palpable or readily understood, like it's because we humans, we're more easily to access that universal energy is a little bit more difficult. But so how I ask my questions is I ask about what the outcomes of certain events are, and I sit there and I try to do a channeling session to get a deeper understanding of world events.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. So for someone, it's just as an example. So for I don't want to put you on the spot really, but I know you do this all the time. So with someone like myself, then you would go into you would look at the full name. Would you need where our the date of time of birth as well? Well, no. Okay.
But I always like to know what time it was because because you would be surprised every time I ask someone what time they were born. I don't use that in numeral. That's astrology. I need the full name at birth and the date of birth. But you would be surprised how like little number. I look at all little numbers, addresses, phone numbers, time of birth. That time of birth always ends up being one of their core numbers. So always a vibration. It's a vibration. It's a frequency. All numbers have a frequency. All the numbers behind the final digit has a frequency, and it's nuanced. It's nuanced. You have to understand numbers and numerology to really. It kind of kicks in your connection to a higher power or to your higher consciousness, where you can actually figure out what it means.
Can that be the same then for nicknames?
Well, well, not necessarily nicknames, but let's say you get married, you have a married name. So you have to do the person's birth name because that's the foundation that tells you their past, their present, and their future. You're talking about who that soul came in here as. So you don't use that in terms of calculating their main tables. But when you get a married name or the name they go by now, which isn't the birth name, that's very important too. You study both. And you see the longer you have a name. And some people I've had to advise, please change your name. You need to change your name. Because, even souls from the other side, just because, they're on the other side doesn't mean they know everything. They're still at a developmental stage. And sometimes their development is poor. And they come and make misguided decisions when they come in, and so they're lopsided. So I have advised people to change their names because they needed different energy. Some have the same energy in every area. They have no variety, nothing else to go on. And so sometimes it's necessary to change your name. Changing the middle name is probably the easiest, but because you can use the first and last name, but you can't ever change it from the birth chart. The birth is from the birth name or your adopted birth name. You can use an adopted birth name.
So Cherry, just one last time, just remind us of your website. It's
cherrysage.com. Cherry like the fruit, sage like the herb.com. Psychic readings.
Well, thank you so much for that. Well, look, I found this absolutely fascinating. We've barely scratched the surface, right? On
barely, exactly.
Numerology, yeah?
I hope we can do this again and we have some other stuff to talk about.
We will be. But I
You
really
give me
like
my
what you do.
homework and I'll do the research.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. No, I really like what you do. I think, this is fascinating. And I would recommend that people check out your website as well, because there's more information, and you do you've got videos, a few videos
And
there.
I'm going to have to check you out too. I want to do your numbers.
We're going to do
Send
that.
me your info.
We're going to do that. Yeah. That is definitely something. Yeah. So, well, Cherry, I just want to thank you so much for coming on today.
My pleasure, Kevin.